much longer? Was this the wake-up call we needed at Virginia Tech? Or how about Sandy Hook Elementary School? Or how about the Gabby Giffords, the congressman shooting a couple years back? What about the Aurora shooting at the movie theater? Gun ownership in the United States has been entrenched in our society ever since the country got into existence in 1776. It's part of our country's fabric, but it doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be. The purpose of my speech today is to make the case that gun ownership recreationally, not including military and law enforcement, should be banned by all U.S. citizens across the country. We're going to talk about three different components. One is that the Second Amendment right to bear arms should not be taken at face value. The second is that guns don't inherently make the home safer. And third, when looking at other countries compared to the United States, we'll be able to see that other countries have proven that gun bans do indeed work. And by the end of today, I would like you to join me in taking a piece of paper and coming with me to a lobbying session with your or our local members of Congress or wherever you live to ask them to put into place gun reform to ban guns in the United States. So let's first start talking about the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Let me first point out that the Bill of Rights was created 250 years ago in a totally different era. We do things differently now. Back then, there were slaves. It was a rural, semi-hostile, slave-holding, post-colonial America compared to the commercialized, liberty-laden, progressive society we have today. According to researcher Tom Hartman, in January 2013, the original intention of the right to bear arms was to make sure that the slaves did not uprise and take over the people in the South who owned them, and to put down potential slave revolts. The fact is, the slave economy is antiquated as it was banned over 150 years ago, so why shouldn't the gun ownership in that respect be as well? Another case that's made, especially by the lawmakers in the North at the time of the Constitution, was that it protects against tyranny, that the U.S. government has a check in the form of gun ownership by the citizens that'll make sure that the U.S. government is not tyrannical. The fact is, the U.S. government is the most powerful military body in the entire world, and a few brave gun-toting citizens is not exactly going to put down the most powerful military in the world. Another case that's made is that it protects the right to hunt, but yet there's no mention of hunting in the Constitution. Others will say that it protects the right to have sustenance, but yet for those of us like me who don't hunt, do we protect grocery stores? Because that's my form of sustenance. And lastly, advocates of the right to bear arms say that this is the one right without any limit to it, the right to bear arms. But yet, the right to religion also has a check. If there's human sacrifice involved, the right to religion is not included. The right for free speech, if there's incitement or conspiracy, or if you libel someone, you'll be held accountable. So the fact is, to a certain extent, when a right starts to threaten others, there should be a limit imposed on it. The next point I wanted to make was that guns in the home don't necessarily make sure that we defend ourselves adequately. In fact, according to an Emory study in 1998, for every time a gun is used in self-defense in the home, there are 7 assaults or murders, 11 suicide attempts, and 4 accidents involving guns around the home. In addition to that, the New England Journal of Medicine came out with an article in 2012 that said that you are 43 times more likely to kill a family member when you have a gun in the house for self-protection than you are to kill an intruder. And lastly, the FBI says that guns on the street also make us less safe. For every homicide that is justified with a handgun on the street, there are 50 more guns that are not justified that are really murders. Now, the case can be made that guns don't kill people, but people kill people. And that's probably true. But the fact is that people with guns kill many, many more people than those without guns. Because when you look at it, people everywhere get angry. But yet you don't hear about mass shootings in Costa Rica or Japan or England. Those just don't happen. Why is that? Because people who have these angry impulses don't have access to the types of guns that people in the United States do. And another case can be made that, one way or another, if you ban the guns, people are going to find their way to guns no matter how they do it. That's the case with weed, or pot, or any other illegal substances. People find their way. But is that a reason for us not to make it harder for them to do so? Think about drunk driving. People are still going to drink and drive, but is that a reason for us to just not make legislation to say that DUIs are something that should be taken seriously? And the third point I wanted to talk about, the third point I want to talk about was the difference between the United States and other countries. And the fact is, other countries all across the board have gun bans, the United States does not. Looking at this, you can see that the United States has 30 times more homicides per capita compared to Britain and Australia, 10 times as many as India, and 4 times as many as Switzerland. Also, you look at the fact that the rest of crime, besides gun homicides in the United States, have dropped precipitously since 2000 to 2010, and this is a Time magazine article in 2012. You can see 4 major types of crime have gone down a lot, whereas firearm homicides have not. Why is that? Because there's still a prevalence of guns in the United States, and until we take those guns away, we're not going to see much of a change in the crime rate there. A few other numbers that are pretty alarming. Since 1979, this is by the childrensdefense.org. Since 1979 through 2012, 119,079 children and teens have been killed. 119,079 children and teens have been killed since 1979 by gun violence. That's 10 kids or teenagers a day. Think about that for a minute. And research compiled by motherjones.org says that there have been 62 mass shootings since between 1982 and 2012. Of those 62, 49 were carried out using legal weapons. In other words, the perpetrators had access to those weapons legally. That's 80% of the mass shootings in the last 30 years have been done with weapons that have been accessed legally. Does the same thing happen if those perpetrators don't have legal access to those guns? I could make the case pretty strongly that that probably would not happen. Looking at this slide from the childrensdefense.org as well in 2012, the United States has almost 4 times as many children deaths under the age of 12 related to gun violence than any other country in the world, Canada being the closest. Everything else you can see it drops precipitously from there. And lastly, to give you one final statistic, in Australia, as a case study, 650,000 semi-automatic and automatic guns were confiscated a couple years back. In the decade following that law implementation, there was a 59% drop in how many gun-related homicides that occurred in Australia, whereas all other crime rates stayed the same. In other words, the gun ban actually took a toll, had an effect on how much killing took place. People didn't turn to poison or machetes or knives to kill other people. Homicides remained the same. The point is, you take guns out of the people's hands, gun violence will not be the same as it used to be. So we've talked today about 3 different points that I wanted to make. One is that the right to bear arms should not just be black and white as something that will be an irreversible right that everyone in the United States should have. Number 2 is that the guns in the house do not necessarily make the houses more safe. And number 3 is that other countries have proven and shown that gun bans do indeed work. Yes, guns do have their benefits, and we've talked about a few of them, hunting and things like that. But at what point does the damage induced by guns supersede those benefits? My hope today is that you'll join me in coming with the local member of Congress, and I have the information here, to lobby today, tomorrow, the next day, as soon as possible, whenever you have a chance, join me in asking for gun reform to take guns out of the hands of citizens in the United States. Thank you for your time.